So today we're going to be focusing on beginning yoga poses. I know a lot of times in my videos I tend to say, okay, we're going to go into a downward dog, we're going to go into an upward dog, we're going to go in Savasana or corpse pose. And maybe not all of us have yoga experience. Maybe we've never taken a yoga class, maybe we've taken like one or two, maybe a few years ago. So I just want to make sure that we're all up to speed and have more knowledge about the yoga poses that I typically use for my classes that I teach. So I'm going to first show you what those poses look like, and then I will do a flow with you guys. It'll be a basic flow using those same poses that I just broke down for you. And you can practice them at home. They're super beneficial to use for detoxing your body, your nervous system. They're good for releasing tension. They're good for stretching and working on your flexibility. These all have so many benefits, and that's why I really want to focus on getting them right and focusing on the right areas, making sure we have right alignment and all that good stuff. So first, take a look at these poses that we're going to be doing today. And now we're going to start our flow. So we're going to start with our sun salutation. I'm going to start at the end of my mat. You can start at the front wherever you're comfortable if you've done this before, but I'm starting at the end so I can move forwards and backwards. And we're starting in Tadasana. So our Tadasana pose, those palms open out to face the front. And let's take a few deep breaths in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. As we move through this flow, I want you to remind yourself to keep breathing no matter how difficult something may be. If you start to sweat, if you start to shake, just keep breathing through it. And one more deep breath all together. Let's inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Go ahead and open up the eyes. And we're going to start by inhaling those arms up overhead and exhale, swan dive forward into a forward fold. So we really want to make sure that in our forward fold position, we're not sinking back into our heels. All of our weight should be in the balls of the feet and the toes, getting an active hamstring stretch in the back. And let's inhale, half rise. And exhale, forward fold. And now we're going to walk our hands into a plank and hold. And now we're going to chaturanga push up all the way down and inhale into an upward facing dog. In our upward facing dog, we want to make sure that the quads are engaged. We're pushing through our hands. We're not sinking into our shoulders, and our neck is not broken at the top. Everything is in line here. It's a very active pose, or it should be at least. And we're going to lift our pelvis, downward facing dog. In this position, we want to make sure that our heels are driving down towards the mat, stretching out the hamstrings, and we're actively pushing away with our hands, sinking down into your mat. And now we're going to look forward, and I'm going to step my feet towards my hands. Forward fold. And let's inhale, half rise. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, reverse swan dive all the way back up to standing. Exhale, hands to heart center, and return the palms back to Tadasana. And now we're going to do a slightly modified version of our sun salutations. We're going to go through the same beginning with the swan dive forward with the half rise, but instead of going into the chaturanga and the upward facing dog, we're going to do cat-cow pose. So we start again on our mat in Tadasana. And we're going to inhale those arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, half rise. exhale, forward fold. Walk those hands out to a plank. And now we're going to bend our knees. Let those knees sink into your mat. And my hands should be right underneath my shoulders. And my knees should be directly under my hips. So I'm making a little table pose. And our spine is in neutral to begin with. So we're not arching or dropping our pelvis. We should be in a neutral spine right here. And we're going to inhale. As we inhale, we're going to arch, going into our cat pose. Push away with your hands and your knees, getting a high arch. And exhale, drop your pelvis, lift your head towards the ceiling for your cow. Again, inhale, arch. And exhale, drop. Let's do this 2 more times. Inhale, arch. And exhale, drop. Last time, inhale, arch. And exhale, drop. I'm going to go ahead and drop into my child's pose now. So push your hands back. Let's open those knees out a little bit wider and sink forward. Let your belly hang through those knees. And now I'm going to bring myself back up onto my hands and knees. From here, I'm going to tuck my toes and extend my legs, finding my downward facing dog. Again, pushing away with your hands. Heels are driving down towards the mat. And look forward between the hands. Step your feet towards your hands into a forward fold. And inhale, half rise. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, reverse swan dive all the way up to standing. Exhale, hands to heart center. And return the palms back to Tadasana. So that is one variation you can do with your sun salutation. There are so many options. Once you learn these poses and you become more comfortable with them, you can mix and match and splice however you want to, whatever your body needs. You can totally bring it in. I use sun salutation to warm my body up and get it ready for movement. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to our getting ready for a little bit more stretching. So we're working on the bigger muscle groups now. Not that we haven't been already, but we're going to really focus on getting deeper into there now. So I'm going to start similar in my sun salutation until we get to the downward dog portion, and then so we're now going to work on stretching our bigger muscle groups. So we're now going to work on stretching some bigger muscle groups and getting into a little more complicated poses. If you have a yoga block at home, I suggest grabbing it. If not, I don't, then you can use a book or something that is similar in dimension. I have this big Michael Jackson book that I sometimes use. It's really thick and it's about the size of a yoga block, so you can use this if you need it at home. But we're going to go through a sun salutation. It begins similarly to how we've been doing it. When we get to the downward dog portion, we're going to add a variation. So we're going to change it up, and we're going to go through some of the other poses that I showed you at the beginning. So your warrior 2, we're going to go to warrior 3. We're going to try to bring it on up to our tree pose and work our way from there. So we're going to work on balance a little bit. We're going to work on stabilization through the feet. We're going to work on not locking our knees and not injuring ourselves. So I'm going to start at the edge of my mat, and I'm going to inhale my arms up. Exhale, swan dive forward. And inhale, half rise. Exhale, forward fold. I'm going to walk my hands out to a plank. Chaturanga all the way down. Inhale, I'm going to tuck the toes, upward facing dog. And lift my pelvis, downward facing dog. And this is where we're going to add some variation now. So I'm going to start by lifting my right leg off the mat. My hips stay square, so I'm not opening up my hips. I'm staying square, lifting that leg as high as it'll go, getting a nice stretch. And now I'm going to bend my knee and pull it in between my hands, planting that foot in a runner's lunge position. So my knee should be directly over my ankle, and this alignment is going to be crucial for about everything else we're going to do in this position. So we're making sure we have proper alignment here. From here, I'm just going to extend my right leg a little bit, getting a nice deep stretch here. And I'm going to bend into that knee. From here, I'm going to reach my arms towards the ceiling, going into a crescent pose. So my hips stay square, and I lift my arms up high. I should be plugging this hip back, keeping them nice and square. This is your crescent pose, and now to go to your warrior two, we're going to turn out that back foot. So we should be making about a 45-degree angle with that foot here. This front knee should stay bent, and those arms go out into a T position. From here, you can go into your reverse warrior, flipping your palm, getting a nice side stretch. And now I'm going to go into my side angle pose. So my elbow is going to rest on my thigh. One arm is reaching up towards the ceiling and trying to sink nice and low in that front knee. If you would like, you can also drop your hand to the mat. You can use your yoga block if you need to prop your hand up a little bit more, or you can keep your hand right where it is. Now we're going to go to our triangle pose. So I'm going to extend my front leg, and I'm going to drop my hand towards the mat. Again, if you need to use your yoga block or your book at home, you're going to use it by propping it up however much you think you need. That way we try and keep our hips nice and square, and we're not overdoing the stretch. And now I'm going to lower my hands back down. I'm going to square my hips back off. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and extend up onto my right leg. So putting all my weight on that right leg. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and find my warrior three. So again, if you need your block, please find your block. You can use it to support you and balance you. For your warrior three, we're trying to lift up that left leg and find squareness as high as you can get it. Finding squareness in those hips. And if you are able and ready, you can also lift those arms to find your warrior three all the way up. If you need to stay down, stay down. It's totally up to you. And now I'm going to make a slight adjustment so I can face you to do this next pose. From your warrior three, we're going to try and lift our torso up, and I'm going to bring my left foot in to my inner thigh. So try to find a balance at the top. If your foot is at the top of your thigh, if it's on your calf, as long as it's not resting on your knee and pushing your kneecap outwards, we are good to go. So we're trying to find balance at the top. If you are comfortable, maybe you take those hands to heart center. Maybe you open those arms up into cactus pose. I've also heard this pose called ego pose by an instructor. Sometimes people try and take too big of steps and they end up biting off more than they can chew. And if you're in a yoga class or you're at home or wherever you are, you want to use this pose to really focus on yourself, not trying to outdo anyone else. So wherever your center of gravity is, wherever you are that day, that's where you want to stay. You're not trying to compete with anyone else. You're not trying to get your leg higher, trying to balance more. That's just going to throw you off, and it's all about your ego. So you want to really focus on your center. That's what we're trying to do right now. My leg is burning. And from here, we can also go out to our peace pose. So if you'd like to try peace pose, we're going to grab our big toe with our index finger, and we're going to take that leg either straight forward, try to find balance, straight forward, or you can take this leg all the way out to the side, finding your peace pose here. Wherever you are comfortable, you can also do a little baby variation without knee bent, totally up to you. This leg should be on fire right now. My stabilizing muscles in my foot are really trying to keep me upright and not falling over. And once you've had enough, gently bring that leg back in to your tree pose. And I'm going to lower that foot back down, and I'm going to shake out this foot that was just working so hard. And now we're just going to do our other side. So I'll face this direction, and you'll be able to see it from the same sort of angle. So we're going to go back from our sun salutation. And I'm going to inhale my arms up overhead. Exhale as I swan dive forward. Inhale, half rise. Exhale, forward fold. And I'm going to walk myself out to a plank position. And I'm going to chaturanga all the way down. Inhale, upward facing dog. And I'm going to lift my pelvis, downward facing dog. And now here is where we're going to switch up sides. So now my left leg is going to lift up. I keep my hips nice and square. And I'm going to bring that foot in between my hands. Runner's lunge. Again, we're making sure we have proper alignment here. And now I'm going to lift my arms towards the ceiling, plug that hip back, make sure we're still parallel in those hips. And I'm going to open up my back foot, going to my warrior two, finding that 45-degree angle back here, and sinking nice and low in that front knee. Arms go to a T. And if you would like, you can go into reverse warrior. And side angle pose. Again, you may use your block if you would like. And I'm going to extend, going to my triangle pose. That leg extends. And now I'm going to square everything back up. And from here, we're going to extend up over that left leg. We're trying to find our warrior three. Again, you may use your block, or you can try and take those arms all the way up. And from here, I'm going to rotate again so I can face you so you can see. We're going to our tree pose, so I'm going to bring my right leg up this time. I'm going to place it wherever is comfortable to find balance. Your hands can go to heart center. You can take them to cactus. Wherever you would like to go in this pose, it's totally up to you. Remember, we're not trying to outdo one another. We're trying to work together, and you're trying to find balance within yourself. And now I'm going to go into my peace pose. I'm going to grab my my big toe with my index finger. I'm going to extend forward, and then I'm going to extend out. You should really feel your feet starting to fire up on the mat. When you've had enough, you can bring that foot back down. Find your tree pose once more. And release that foot. Or you can go into your birds of paradise if you would like. So now we're going to do a sun salutation, again going up until the downward dog point. And we're going to go into our ground stretches. We're going to go into like a pigeon pose, all that good stuff. So just follow along. I'm sure you'll do just fine. We're going to start in Tadasana. And I'm going to inhale my arms up overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. And inhale, half rise. And exhale, forward fold. And walk those hands to a plank. And I'm going to chaturanga. And upward facing dog. And lift the pelvis, downward facing dog. And now from here, we're going to bring that knee in to your elbow and plant that foot in the mat. So we're trying to get that leg as parallel as possible before dropping it down, and then you can sink that back leg down. So again, we're staying nice and active in this pose. That quad should still be working a little bit. We don't want to just completely sink all the way down into the ground. You want to keep everything moving and everything active. And I know that moving sounds kind of like a weird word to be using in a stretch, but you really do want to keep your muscles activated. So if you are ready to sink all the way down, you may. We're trying to drive that opposite hip down into the ground. And I'm going to bring myself on up. I'm going to bend my back knee so my legs end up making 90-degree angles, two 90-degree angles. And I'm going to walk my hands backwards as far as I can go, trying to keep that knee on the ground and getting a nice stretch through the hamstring. The hamstring and the quads and the hip flexors should feel this right here. And when you've had enough, you can always bring yourself back up. And I'm going to extend my front leg straight now. Going to, I call this a jazz split. My dancer friends might call this a jazz split as well. So my back knee is bent, my front leg is extended, and you can just fold forward over that front leg. And go ahead and bring it on up. From here, I'm going to flip around to face you guys. I'm going to find my fire logs pose. So the leg that I had forward is my right leg, and that's the one that I'm going to continue stretching for now until we switch sides. My right leg goes on top of my left, and my legs should be parallel with one another. So the knees and the ankles should line up. Once you're here, we might all have different degrees of flexibility in our hips right here. We might be super tight. If you are, it's totally fine. I am too. We're going to try and sink forward as far as we can, and you're going to feel this in your glutes and in the back of your body here. So all of these muscles, you might feel it in your psoas and your hip flexors a little bit too as you fold forward. It's good to release tension right here. And go ahead and bring it back up. Go ahead and shake out those legs. I know that's an intense stretch. So now I'm going to flip around. I'll do that same sequence on my left side, so with that left leg doing most of the stretching. I'm going to flip around so you can see my left leg. And I'm going just straight for my downward dog. lifting that left leg towards my hands and trying to get it as parallel as I can before dropping it down onto the mat. Again, this should be an active stretch. We're not just plopping ourselves here and staying. We're actively trying to press down with that hip and gain flexibility. And let's bring it back up. I'm now going to bend my back knee, again finding that 90-degree angle with both knees, and I'm going to walk my hands backwards. I can sink to my elbows. This is comfortable for me, but it might not be for you, and that's okay. Wherever you go is totally fine. And now I'm going to bring myself back up. I'm going to extend my left leg forward, and I'm going to fold myself over that leg. And go ahead and bring yourself on up. Now I'm going to flip around to face you so I can do my fire logs. My left leg should be on top this time. Again, we are making sure they are parallel with one another, hips and ankles, or knees and ankles, that's the word I'm looking for, are stacked on top of one another and fold forward. If you notice that one side is a little bit tighter than the other, that's normal. For some reason, we are just always off balance. We're very imbalanced creatures. And that could just stem from whether you're right or left-handed. Maybe your stronger hand you carry more weight with during your day. I know I carry my purse on my right side usually because I'm right-handed, and that could throw off my balance. That could throw off, how I walk during the day. So there are many things like, driving a car, if you drive a stick shift, if you drive an automatic. All these things play into the balance of our bodies, and it's crazy how something as simple as that can throw our bodies off so much. And I'm going to bring it back up and shake it out. Awesome. And now I'm going to flip over onto my belly. And this next stretch, it can be a little intense, but I will give you a variation if it is too much for you. So this next stretch, it's good for stretching the back, and it's also good for getting into your hip flexors and the quads a little bit. So if you have tight hips, if you have tight quads, and you're able to do this one okay, then that's a good sign. That means that the damage is not, it can be repaired. We can work with it. So to start, I'm going to lay down flat, and I'm just going to start by doing a simple little lift of my torso. So I'm going to plant my hands right by my shoulders, and I'm going to elongate through my spine and begin to lift my head towards the ceiling. I'm going to lift as high as I'm able until I start to feel a pinch. That is too much for me. So you shouldn't feel a pinch. You should just feel a little bit of stretch through the top and then lower back down. I'm going to do this again. We're going to lift through the head, little lift, just strengthening the back right quick and lower back down. And now reach back with your left hand and try to grab your left foot. If this is successful and this feels okay, you can stay right here, or you can move up to the next level, which is reaching back with your right hand and grabbing your right foot. If this is still okay, you can stay right here and get your stretch here, or you can press out with your feet and lift yourself up here onto your hips. So this is really beneficial for your back. It's good for your chest. It's good for your hips. It's a lot of work though. Go ahead and lower it down. So if that did not feel good and you can't get there, then just do one side at a time. You can push into your hand with your foot, and you'll feel that leg start to activate. You'll feel that hip start to tighten up a little bit, but when you release, your hip releases with it. So it should feel good. Maybe do both sides if you have to do this variation. Make sure you're even, and do this as many times as you would like. You can also do the 2 feet, 2-handed variation. So we're now going to flip over and get ready for our Savasana pose. All right, so now that we've gone through some of those, I want to show you just one more pose, and that is Savasana. So at the end of most practices, I would say all practices, instructors tend to take you into Savasana or corpse pose, and that is just laying flat on your mat with the palms facing upwards. And this is really a time for you to reflect on the class that you just took. It's a time for you to re-ground yourself and to just let your body return to its natural state because you've been working so hard. And this is a really good time to also set intentions. So if you were working through even this class and you're like, wow, that peace pose was really hard. I want to work on the peace pose. So then make that your intention. How can you get to that full peace pose position? You can strengthen, you can stabilize, and you can also work on your flexibility. Again, thinking about that active versus passive flexibility, because we don't want you to just throw your leg up there. We want you to be able to control where it's going and hold it there versus just taking it up there for like 2 seconds and then having to drop it because it's so much work. So really use this time to set intentions and tune back into your breathing, because sometimes we forget to breathe as we're doing work. And once you feel like you've grounded yourself, like you've set an intention for the next time you move, then you may bring yourself on up. You can return to your day, whatever you're doing today. Make sure you drink plenty of water. And I appreciate you guys so much. Let me know what you thought about this class. It was kind of a spur of the moment idea. I've had it requested to me in the past, and I just thought I would do it today. So thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts on it.